years ago, I trained in wilderness survival skills. And the day that my teacher taught tracking is the one that I will never, ever forget. That morning, he promised me by day's end that the world would never look the same again. And we walked along a trail after that, and he had me bend low and crouch and lie on my belly while he pointed out the impressions in the dirt, in the dry leaves, in the moss, in the bark. And I saw footprints of deer and skunks and rabbits and raccoons and even mouse tracks in the dust across the concrete. And at the end of the day, he said, all that stands between you and the gift of tracking is dirt time. Put in the hours, and you'll be a master tracker. I put in a little dirt time, and I became an amateur tracker who can delight her kids by reading last night's backyard news through the tracks that we find together. Oh, look, the raccoon crawled across the barbecue last night. Aha! The tomato thief left her squirrely footprints. Sheldon, how many times do I have to tell you to stay out of the flowers? My teacher was right. The world has never looked the same. For decades, I never noticed these signs in creation, and now I can't unsee tracks everywhere, even on carpet. Even when I go for hikes, without seeing a single living soul, I know that I am surrounded by animals. The paw prints, the seed piles, the bedded down grass, the scat tells me so. We track what we have been taught by our elders to see. We track what we've been taught by our elders to see, but once we see it, we have a hard time, in fact, almost impossible time, of unseeing it. Someone I know has a mantra, and her mantra goes, I should never get my hopes up. She's experienced too many disappointments in her younger life, and so no matter how good her day is, when she calls me on the phone, she can only relate the moments that failed to meet expectations. See, I should never get my hopes up, and down the trail of tears she goes. We track what we are taught to see. If financial security is the key to happiness, then the monetary value of every single opportunity will be salient to us. We track what we are taught to see. Mother Teresa used to see the face of Jesus in every person that was sick or dying that she tended to. We track what we are taught to see. There are the dead-end paths that so many of us have traveled a million sorrowful times down, and then there are the fresh tracks, the tracks of the Spirit that we can train our eyes upon. Where your heart is, so is your treasure, Jesus reminds us. You cannot serve two masters. And it seems that many of us today might be rethinking the tracks that we pursue, the masters that we serve. In what is being called the great resignation of our time, employees are quitting their jobs at unprecedented rates. April saw more people in the U.S. quit in 1 month than in any month in over 20 years. In Canada, 1 in 4 workers have considered leaving their job post-pandemic. Burnout, life changes are buzzwords that gloss over deeper dissatisfaction that the pandemic has unearthed in us. In the aftermath of COVID lockdowns, with Hurricane Delta bearing down on our horizon, we are all trying to make sense of this new landscape, picking our way through the rubble of what was our pandemic life. We have to decide what is worth salvaging, what is too broken to keep fixing. And this includes our faith. Researchers tell us that people are evaluating their spiritual practices in record numbers and ditching the tracks of our most recent elders and ancestors in favor of something different. but maybe not something new. Maybe what we are seeing instead is a seeking that is as old as time. The Pharisees were taught to track religious piety as a sign of God's indwelling, but Jesus said, "By their fruits you shall know them." Jews, Greeks, males, females, liberal, conservative, NDP, Christians, Muslims, by their fruits you can track God at work in the world. And Jesus told them not to worry because they couldn't, by worrying, add a single thing to their lives. Track the Spirit, he said. Seek the kingdom of God, he said, and you'll find everything that you need. And in those days, there were those who risked it all to follow Jesus and those who could not bear to let go of what was. For the fog of uncertainty was thick in those days, and tracking anything in the chaos of that moment seemed impossible. And so it may well be for us now. We track what we are taught to see. And some of us believe that we are physical beings grasping at spiritual experiences, when the truth is we are spiritual beings, clothing ourselves in physical form. What we seek is not found through the physical senses. Mother Teresa was not using her eyes when she saw the face of Jesus and everyone she tended to. She was using inner vision. When the poet Wendell Berry brings his worries to the still water pond and he comes to know the peace of wild things and the grace of the world, it's not through the rational mind, but through the soul that tracks where the Spirit can be found. I see divine traces of inspiration every day in this congregation. In the way you stayed open for neighbors in need throughout the pandemic, in the way you cared for and prayerfully held one another these 17 months through these 109 years of being church in this city. The religious in Jesus' day thought that they were looking for something out there. Something out there and in the future to come. But Jesus said the kingdom of God is here and now, for those with eyes to see it. He was a teacher of spiritual tracking. Put in the dirt time, the hours of seeing the world through inner vision, and we'll see the traces of Spirit everywhere, and you can't unsee it. Changes the way we view and act in the world. It doesn't allow us to be comfortable because seeing the Spirit in all matter leaves us unable to close our fleshy walls off to the troubles of the world. But it also roots us in an ancient truth. God is love, and we are made in love's image. There's no need to fear. Worry will not add a single thing to our lives. It's the faithful footprints of the one we call the cosmic Christ that we are tracking now. And we have everything we need to see them. Thanks be to God and to you, my fellow trackers. Amen.